For the first time in Bear and Beard history, we have a topic that needs a part 2. This is not a fan casting that we did a different way and put out a different episode. No, we are still talking the Eternals. So in part 2 of this episode, which is right now, we have joining us back again, Orey from Geeky Vengeance. We have Josh from the Knights of Nerds Table, and we have Nerdsquatch Jay from Fandom for All here for this awesome part 2. So thank you for coming back. Let's get into it. Here we go. Right after this, please stand by.
This is the Bear and the Beard podcast. Your hosts are just two nerdy guys talking nerdy things. This Nerdtastic Duo sits down every episode, sometimes with friends and guests, to explore a new topic related to nerd or pop culture. They may disagree or argue sometimes, and you may not always agree with them, but please remember, this show is mostly their opinion, with some research and facts added in along the way. And the most important goal is to have fun. Welcome to the conversation. Let's get nerdy with it.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to part 2 of the eternally awesome MCU, a nerdtastic discussion about the Eternals. I am joined once again by, and as always, by my majestically bearded, faithful co-host, Bearded Brian Guy, the Beard. Brosius Mayo, my guy.
Mayo Brosius, my dude.
And just to prove that this is not recorded in the same day, I got a haircut. So
hey,
before everyone freaks out. So
I didn't. I shaved.
Yeah, me too.
Shave the lady beard off. We are joined again by Orey from Geeky Vengeance. Hello, sweetheart.
Hello, darling.
We are joined once again also by Josh from the Knights of the Nerds Table, who I'm guessing we didn't scare off in part 1 because he's back. So I guess we're just going to roll with it. And we mentioned him like twice in the first episode. So I guess we just spoke him into existence in this episode. We have Jay, Nerdsquatch from Fandom for All, joining us as well. Welcome, welcome.
I'm like Beetlejuice, except 2 times, not 3. You know.
You're easier to get than Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
Beetlejuice.
You said it twice. Just say it once more. Come on.
That movie still freaks me out, but I love it so much.
I love that movie.
Beekeeper.
So, part 1 ended with us talking about our favorite character from the Eternals movie. We talked a lot of stuff. Like, the fact that I got that one edited down to an hour and a half, I think was a challenge. But we did talk a lot of stuff. And since we talked favorite character, today we're also going to get into the cast, the characters that, were brought to life by these amazing actors and actresses. We're going to get into some representation now that we have Nerdsquatch here to talk about that with us. And we're going to get into what we think this movie means for the MCU overall. So, and then you'll get your Talk Nerdy segment at the end. So, Jay,
stick around for that.
Since you weren't here for part 1, tell us who your favorite character was in this movie.
Okay, I think my favorite character is definitely Makari. I really appreciate the sign language aspect, and I love, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Druig gets blasted out of the sky and she uses her actual voice and she screams, and it's like it hits so hard. I just love it. And I think they did such a beautiful job with the rendering of her speed. Not always slow-mos. It was also in real time as well. So I think Chloe Zhao handled a speedster character a lot better than I think DC has for a while.
Yeah.
Flash.
we talked about that last episode. I made the point of saying this is now 2 films, 2 different speedsters that they've done correctly. And actually, so while editing, I found out I was wrong. So here's the correction on that. we've actually seen 4 speedsters in the entire MCU done correctly, because Speed and Quicksilver in WandaVision are both speedsters. They are different characters. So we've actually seen 4 speedsters done correctly.
Do you count Jessica Jones as MCU? Because Wizard is in Jessica Jones.
Okay,
I mean,
Marvel has done 5, but in the MCU it's 4.
Right, yes.
So-
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Josh was right there with you on that. The fact that it was more like the world around her was moving quickly and she was moving at regular speed. That was good. Yeah. Beard even said that was his favorite character because Flash. So yeah, so that's a good selection. We learned back in part 1 that Makari, played by Randolph. Is that right?
Lauren
Ridloff. I always get that confused. Lauren Ridloff. So she had a Hollywood changing moment when filming this movie, where she expressed some frustration to Angelina Jolie about when she wasn't looking at the camera. The director called action, and she didn't know it. So Angelina Jolie said, "Well, why don't you have like a crewmate have a laser pointer and point it where you can see it when he calls action?" And now she's going to do that on every movie, like every project she's on. So that's Hollywood changing kind of stuff coming out of this movie. Really cool to find out also that she is actually deaf in real life, and that had nothing to do with her getting the part. So that's
I just realized that I've seen her somewhere before.
She's
in a show called Legacies. She was the dragon.
Oh, see, I didn't
she's
know
in
that.
The Walking Dead, but I didn't know about that.
I didn't know about Legacy.
Yeah, she was the dragon.
Oh, that's really cool. But yeah,
when the dragon becomes a human form. Yeah,
I haven't watched Legacy. That's the continuation of Vampire.
It's after. It's actually after the show that was the continuation of that. But yeah, there was the originals, and then Legacies isn't as great, but we can do that in another episode.
Yeah. So, real quick, want to run down this cast, and y'all just give me now that we're on the cast side of things, and I just want y'all to give me a, grading scale 1 to 5, 1, how well they did bringing this version of the character to life. We'll do it like that.
Angelina Jolie killed it.
Oh yeah.
10.
Worth the wait.
Which surprised a lot of people, but she killed it.
We'll start with Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie, as Thena, we've seen her in other nerdy stuff. Most well known probably for the nerd community, Lara Croft in Tomb Raider.
Maleficent.
Well, that's a Disney thing, but yeah,
it's still nerdy. I consider that part of my nerd heart.
Here, that is nerdy.
What is your favorite role that each of you have seen Angelina Jolie in, other than this?
Other than this, actually, I would say the first Maleficent. I didn't like the second one that much, but the first Maleficent, yes. I think she was great.
First Maleficent. Orey?
Foxfire.
Okay. Jay?
I really like Those Who Wish Me Dead. It's more of a recent movie that released that she did.
Still haven't seen that one yet, but I'll have to check that out. Yeah. Josh, favorite Angelina Jolie role?
Mine's probably a little bit of a curveball, and that's a pun, because it's actually Wanted, where they curve bullets around the corners.
Yes!
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that movie. I think there was a lot of mixed reviews up and down for it, but there was a lot to like. And I saw a clip of it the other day, and I had totally forgotten that Star-Lord, a.k.a. Chris Pratt, is in that movie.
What? Boom goes the dynamite.
For the beginning,
he's
he gets
the co-worker.
smashed in the face with the
Yeah.
Back when he was Andy Fat.
Yes, exactly. I should say, I said a Star-Lord. I should have said back when Andy Dwyer, right? But yeah, I enjoyed that movie, regardless of the mixed reviews. I enjoyed it.
Wanted was just a really good movie because it was almost like they were like, hey, you know that bullet time thing that they came up with for Matrix? Let's see what we can do with that.
Yeah.
Let's see how ridiculous we can film
Right.
this.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite Angelina Jolie role outside of this movie actually is going to go back further than Wanted. Gone in 60 Seconds. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Gone in
so hot
60
in that movie.
Seconds. The
I feel like I'm in.
Yes.
like, and that was also probably my favorite Nicolas Cage movie too. So
I
just
feel like I'm in
that-
third grade.
Hold on, you only have one favorite Nicolas Cage
Right.
movie.
I think my favorite Nicolas Cage movie is Into the Spider-Verse, but we could talk about that another time.
Right. Me too.
He actually did kill it in that.
Yeah.
Everybody did. That movie is
Chuck
excellent.
open. Punch you
All
out.
right. So rating 1 to 5 on how well Angelina Jolie brought Thena to life. Beard. Because we have audio listeners, you actually have to say it.
Oh, 10 out of 10
Five.
beards.
We're all throwing up our hands.
10 out of 10 beards.
Okay. Well, it was a rating of 5, so I guess she did really good.
Oh,
Ori,
okay.
one out of 5.
She gets 20 because I have toes too. So
Okay.
fuck her. It's absolutely-
All right, Jay.
I'm gonna go with a 5 as well.
Okay. And Josh.
I'm also going to give a 5.
I'm gonna give a 4 for one thing. And this might have been writing. I don't know how much it had to do with her, but when she was going crazy, the visual effects kind of threw me, of like her eyes flashing and stuff like that. It was a little throw offish for it to be her doing that. It's nothing against her. It's nothing against the right. It was just a little off because it's like normally when we see Angelina Jolie go crazy, she just goes crazy. There is no like visual effect to it.
Well, the thing about that is it's not just one step. There's an entire like series of steps when Mad Weary sets in. So I think like she handled that very well. From
like I said, I think it was more of a visual thing for me, not her specifically, but the visuals that were overlaid over her doing that acting threw me off just enough for me to go like it's more like a 4.5. Like it's not even a full 4.
I can respectively disagree, but I will say we're playing imposters right now, and he's the imposter.
Exactly.
The imposter.
Go to Mark.
Let's go to Gemma Chan as Cersei. Beard.
4.
4?
I didn't believe, and this could have been either one of their fault or it could have just been writing. I didn't believe that her and Icarus loved each other. And they were trying to make it seem like I was supposed to. And I don't know if it was one of their performances or what, but that brought it down a little bit for me.
Honestly, along the same lines, I thought every relationship she was in the movie felt like it wasn't all there.
Yep.
Like, even when she was falling in love with Jon Snow, like, it's like, I don't believe you that you're in love with him. Like, even Sprite was like, do you really love him? And she's like, I don't know. It's like, exactly.
Well, okay. So
we don't either.
I think that was one thing about her character that I kind of understood. I don't think she knows what love is. So, absolutely, 100%. I think, I'm going to also give her a 4. I'm giving it to her on the grounds that I just didn't feel for her character as a main character because I think she was just a little flat. But there was some great dialogue between her and Sprite and the rest of the gang. I thought that was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But her interpersonal relationships just felt very forced.
I agree. Jay, what do you think about old Gemma Chan?
If I were to say everything, I mean, I do agree with all of your points, and that would make it a 4 for me, but I do have to say I'm kind of a stickler about these things unless they really work, and, I don't understand why this had to be somebody we've seen in the universe before. She's acted as a character. She was in Captain Marvel, and that really detracted from me. It distracted me, but, I'm going to also give her a 3 because I feel, like you said, everything that should have felt genuine fell flat. Mm-hmm. And they hyped her up as something special, and I didn't really necessarily get the vibe that she was some kind of progeny, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Everyone kept saying that she was the heart and soul of the movie, and I thought it was just Kingo. I thought Kingo was heart and soul.
Or Gilgamesh.
Pure heart.
Gil was the emotional center.
Yeah. Josh, what is your rating for Gemma Chan?
I'm going to give her a 4 as well. Similar points to what you guys made. I'll just add that when you're trying to have a character that is the center, that is sort of the heartbeat of the movie, I feel like you need to deliver a little bit better than what we were given. And there could be various places you could put the blame, whether it be directing, writing, or acting itself. But I think all in all, very solid performance. And when I say 4, I think we do have to try to find some things to criticize here in this movie and in the characters and the acting, because otherwise it would be the greatest movie of all time. And I think we all agree it's not that, but it is. It's a great movie. Just definitely some.
Shang-Chi was that. Like we. No, but we did praise Shang-Chi very highly when we did our review of Shang-Chi. So I agree. Well. I'm going 3 on all of the same points. It wasn't believable. And I'll add one thing, and we've said this in the past. When you write a movie that is team-based, you should not feel like the main character could have been any other member of the team.
Yep.
And that's how I felt. Is that Cersei's struggle wasn't unique, and she, in the final scene where you actually kind of want to care about what happens, is the first time you really care about her. That shouldn't have happened. Now, that's not the actress's fault, solely. It's not the writer's fault. It's an opinion. She still did a great job doing what she was told to do. Mm-hmm. So, and that's why I give her a 3. And again,
I hope we see more of her in the MCU in the future, which I think we will. They're setting her up pretty nicely. No character, not no character, but most characters that are loved now didn't hit us strong the first time. Like, we didn't feel the same about Sam as we do now, as we did when he ran past, or when he was getting run past by Captain America.
On your left.
Character development over time. We're going to care about her a lot more. This actress
honestly, I hated Robert Downey Jr. from the beginning, and then by the end, I'm crying that he's dying. Yep. So I mean, they grow on you and they evolve.
It was around Age of Ultron where I started caring about what happened to Tony, and then Civil War comes and slaps me in the face. It's like, okay, I'm not your friend no more. I don't like you.
And see, I felt that way about Cap. So we're like,
yeah, it happens. It does happen. I will remind everybody that we are just strictly ranking these actors on how well they brought this version of the character to life. And then I also want to say, can we just take a side detour and say, what would have happened if this whole movie, Phastos would have replaced Cersei?
Yes.
As the main, because really, I feel like he's the humanity of the team way more than Cersei is.
Yeah.
And the movie would have been completely different.
Phastos,
I know it would have been a great
him
movie.
so much.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get there.
All right. Next one. Richard Madden, aka Rob Stark, as Icarus Beard.
I'm giving him a 5, but I hated him. I needed to hate him. The actor, I'm based. Yeah. Okay.
He's the John Walker of the Eternals.
He did great.
Yeah.
That's
5.
So sad too. John Walker.
I think there's a lot of characters that we could point to in many different genres of video and books and everything that you sort of love to hate, and that's part of what makes them so good, especially on the screen when it's like this is a terrible human being or terrible character, but I love them because they're bringing the terribleness to life and making me feel it.
This is strictly a writing issue I think I have with the movie. I was disappointed. I thought it was funny and a great knock at the thing, but I'm sad that he just flew into the sun a little bit.
Yeah.
He just gave up.
What's the Ryan George said?
Well, I mean, if you're gonna have a character named Icarus, gotta fly that guy into the sun for sure. Yeah, our hands are kind of tight on that one.
So yeah, Orey, what was your ranking of old Madden?
This is purely based on thirst because it is Thursday. Yeah, we're recording this. He gets a 5 because I mean. Who doesn't like a hot bad guy? And he actually did it very well. I mean, the only thing that gave me problems, and this is just because of the name, like every time he said "I love you, Cersei," I giggled because I mean, here's a Stark saying he loves Cersei. That was the only thing that kind of like broke the environment, the ambiance for me. But other than that, like
number 3, the fact from last episode,
right? But I mean, I absolutely loved him. I thought he was fantastic.
Okay, Jay, what do you think of old Robb Stark's MCU debut?
I'm going to agree with Orey on the fact that anything I'm going to say is based purely on thirst, but also, I really think. I'm getting to a point where I'm tired of the evil Superman trope. You know, we have Homelander, we have Omni-Man, we have Icarus. Hell, we even have Superman for 45 to an hour and a half of Justice League. But
you mean 8 hours?
He's not necessarily evil,
right?
Well, I mean, because even Kingo, who I loved, he didn't know he.
That's one of my favorite movies.
He sided with Icarus, but he didn't because he would never harm his family. That's right. When we get to that character, I'll talk more about that. But yeah.
Well, okay, if we're looking at alignment, okay, if we're doing this like D&D alignment,
It's D&D.
he was lawful evil. He was doing the good thing for the bad reason.
Yep. So I mean,
and he was designed that way. It's not like he developed into this
he's always been
person. Yeah.
He's always been on mission.
I'm on mission.
What mission?
Peace in our time.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm going to give it a 5. I think Richard Madden has always played a great bad guy. Rocket Man was the first instance where I was just like, you are so beautiful, but I hate your guts. And I felt the same way here. So yeah, I'm going to give him a 5.
Okay. Josh, what'd you think of it?
I also need to give him a 5. I did put Icarus as my favorite character, and thinking about
I'm not surprised by this ranking at all.
I just really enjoyed Icarus as a character, everything about him really, and I wanted to find things to criticize because I tend to be a glass half full guy a lot, especially with these reviews. And some of my friends and co-hosts on my show make fun of me sometimes because of my ratings are usually like, oh, 5. Yeah, that's good. 5. And they're like, okay, you have to like be mad at something or criticize something. But honestly, I really did enjoy Icarus and enjoyed his character. I will agree with you, Beard, where I feel like it's a little disingenuous that he does fly into the sun at the end. I feel like they could have done something else with that because they already made the joke earlier. Sprite already did the whole ha ha ha, I told everybody that as a joke story. So then he goes and kills himself that way. Like it just seems
okay, hold on, but does he kill himself? Hold on. Does he kill himself? Like that is the $1 million question. We don't know.
The writer came out and said he is dead. He is dead.
And see,
okay.
That's my problem because to me, I love the story, and when it happened, it fit well with the movie, which is fine. But from like a writing standpoint, to me, it feels like the writer of the movie or the writers, I don't know how these things work. I'm sure it's multiple people. They had this character in their hand, and right at the end, they just threw him in the trash.
Yeah.
You got a team of 10 people.
That's how
you got to slim it down.
I know. But like,
I'm fine with killing him. I just like you said, the method was sort of
it was very
it wasn't like he died in a magnificent way. He was just tossed to the sun. The sun was the trash can.
I'm gonna give him a 4. just because, and it's really more of a 4.5. The accent threw me off. Like, and that was a complaint for a lot of the characters that spoke with an accent. It's like you can't place it, so you can't really say what accent it was supposed to be, and just it coming out of his mouth sounded weird. Because even in Game of Thrones, which is set in medieval times, they all didn't speak like with this weird accent or anything. And, well, the people of Essos did, but
quick question: what is Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Right, I never watched that.
So I'll give him a 4.5 just on accent alone. And I do want to make the point of, yes, that I'll say it like this, and because this is my belief, and we'll talk about this when we talk about the future. But this version of Icarus might be dead. But since they have all of their memories stored, so if anyone's seen Altered Carbon, season 1, where the guy uploaded his consciousness, but his death didn't upload or whatever, we could see something like that in the MCU in the future. Like, we could have Icarus come back 5 movies from now, and everyone's like, Icarus? It's like, I am not the Icarus you knew. You know,
I am bad Superman.
I'm bad Superman on purpose now. But and not only that, but we talked about the judge, Arishem. He could use that to his advantage as well as a torture method. Like, see here, I have Icarus. I have his memories before he flew into the sun. I can restore him and give him back to you if you do what I say, kind of thing. So that it's all in the air as of right now, because we saw that they have the ability to make him again. Yeah. So that's
So I actually have one, but only for Jay, because it wouldn't work for you 3 because I brought it up last episode.
Okay.
How would you rate Bill Skarsgard's performance?
Okay, look, that was a surprise. I was super surprised. Pleasantly surprised. I thought he did great. But I'll tell you, I was just getting ready to say it because we were talking about Arishem. That's the one that got me, is when the credits roll and I see that it's David Kaye, who is Megatron from Beast Wars.
Right.
And he was Arishem the judge, and I was like, that's how I know that voice.
Yes.
And I thought that was a great little
Optimus
nerd.
Primal.
Right, a little bonus nerd inclusion there. And then, of course, having Patton Oswalt roll in at the end. Finally, having Patton Oswalt in the MCU.
But that CGI was trash.
It was terrible. Look,
it was.
Why was it
thrown together? You could tell it was thrown.
The rest of the movie is gorgeous. It's like they did it last minute without any money.
And they're like, we're just gonna throw it in, and the fans are just gonna love it because we have Harry Styles.
That's what it is. They spent their budget for the end credit scene on Harry Styles. That's why the CGI was broken. But
they're like, here's your drip. And then here's like the crusties.
It wasn't so broken that you couldn't, like, he looked like he was a part of the scene. Like he wasn't like he was in the world, but he looked off. Like, we've seen Rocket and Groot and, you know, all the versions of Groot. We've seen Korg, we've seen Meek, you know, we've seen these alien creatures brought to life in such a fantastical way where you're like, that looks real. Like, you could walk up on that and touch that.
We've seen better stuff on Loki.
Yeah.
We've seen better CGI on television.
Yeah, we talked about
what
that.
I will say.
So did we say the budget for that was like $1,000 per, or like some $100,000 per episode? So,
okay. Question for that: do you think they'll fix it when they release it on Disney Plus?
For sure.
Hopefully, yes. Hopefully.
They added a bunch of
because even the CGI on Dane's sword at the end looked better than the troll did.
Yeah. If not when it's released on Disney Plus, then certainly moving forward when he shows up in other projects. Because obviously it's not a one and done. We're seeing him again.
Yeah.
So for sure they'll clean it up.
It's nothing worse than Doctor Who does, and I love Doctor Who.
Got that BBC VFX budget going on.
Just for the credit scene.
Right. Next character. We saw glimpses of her. She wasn't in as much of the movie as everyone else. Salma Hayek, who played Ajak. What did y'all think? Starting with Beard, how well did Salma Hayek bring Ajak to life?
I'm giving her 2 scores. I'm giving Salma a score, and then I'm giving the movie's writers a score. Salma Hayek 5 because she's great, but I'm giving the writers a 3 because when she died, I didn't even care, and I wanted to because it's Salma Hayek. But I'm just like, okay, she's dead. So what?
Yeah.
Like, I got why it mattered to the characters, but that's about all I felt.
I thought the wardrobe choice was a little weird for her character specifically throughout the movie, like throughout the flashbacks. I thought that was a little.
Which wardrobe? The like ancient wardrobe, like her.
No, the ancient wardrobe was great, but like when she started wearing people clothes, I guess
the cowgirl.
Is the best way to say it.
Cowgirl aesthetic.
No, it was the suit when she walks up on Phastos at Hiroshima. That color combo was just off.
Yeah,
that color combo.
I like that. That was.
I liked his outfit. I loved his vibe.
The outfit was good. The color was off. Like,
I loved it.
What is this?
I liked it.
Orey, what did you think of Salma Hayek?
I am also going to give 2 different scores.
Oh God!
The acting from her is a 10. Selma is always a 10 in anything I've ever seen her in. Even if the movie is she is fantastic. Mm-hmm. So she gets a 10. The writing. I hate the time jumps in this movie because they don't give you enough time to build with the character.
And we talked about that in the first part.
I'm giving it a 2. Like that. Okay. That's how bad it was for me.
Okay. Jay.
I am, and I discussed this with the other half of my show, who is my mother. But, we discussed this for our review that we wrote up. But, a lot of people that we saw, because we read a lot of other people's opinions just to see what everybody else is saying, and seeing where a lot of people said she was wasted, I actually appreciated how they used it, how it was, we're going to tell all of her bits in the past so that we understand why Icarus feels that he's been cheated when in modern day she's like, we're just going to cut off everything we've been told to do. We're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Quit it, shut it down. So showing her in the past and how she did court him as a leader, it shows her as almost an antagonist because she did make him feel like he was important and then chose somebody else. Mm-hmm. So, I appreciated getting to see her stuff in the past.
I can see that.
I just wish they did it a little different enough for us to care about her death. Because I wanted to care about her so much.
Because her death was so sudden and I didn't feel much. So a 4.
Okay. Josh.
I think I'm just going to keep it simple and do sort of an average of everything. Just call it 3.5. Call it a 3.5. Okay. I think I pretty much agree with everything that was said. There's really strong points and some weak points. So I'm just going to kind of keep it in the middle a little bit with a solid 3.5.
I'm going to do the same 3.5 because I agree with everything y'all said. The timing, we talked about that in the first part of the episode, was off for me. A lot of people might have liked the time jumps the way they were. That's fine. It didn't ruin the movie, but for me, I feel like it could have been done differently. And I didn't like Beard said, I didn't feel the emotion I feel like I should have felt when she died. Now, and this is an interesting thing too. She had 2 deaths, if you think about it, which is weird for a Marvel movie. But so we find out that she's dead, and that's when they come upon her ranch, they find her body, and that's we really didn't care about that because it's like, who is this? I've seen her in 2 flashbacks at this point. Like we don't even say anything much. The importance of this character. We just know that she talked to Erisham. Yep. And then when Icarus actually
murders her. Yes, yeah.
Threw her into the pile of demons.
That hurt.
I felt that.
I felt
that was just rough.
Yeah. So we
and maybe they didn't want us to feel anything about her death. Maybe that's exactly how we were supposed to feel. We're just supposed to be like, who the hell is this corpse laying here?
And then for Sprite to bring her back to intimidate Cersei at the end, that that hurt. I was like, okay, now I feel. So
Thanks for hurting me, Sprite.
I feel now. So
you also feel it when Icarus responds to it too. He kind of lets out the yell, scream, whatever you want to call it, and lasers the side of the barn and the ground and a couple other things, I guess. So you feel his emotion in that moment. And I think it was good to convey that it wasn't just a simple, cold, calculated, like, yep, you need to die. Like, he killed her because he felt like it was what he had to do, but he clearly, like, it very much affected him to do it.
It hurt him.
Mm-hmm. And on that point, too, this might, I don't know if this was if it was a continuity error that they fixed or something, but I noticed that scene specifically. So when they first come up on Ajax's ranch, it's all trashed and everything, and they're like, oh, a deviant did this. Okay. If Icarus had not had that emotional reaction, because he didn't plan to do that, he didn't plan to make, obviously he didn't plan to make it look staged like a deviant attack. So if he had not had that outburst of emotion, would she have just been laying in the middle of a field with no obvious reason of why she died? I feel like one of those was a continuity error that they had to fix. Either it was already destroyed when they filmed that first scene, and then they were like, wait, we need a reason for this to have happened. Or they filmed the other scene first, and they're like, okay, wait, hold on. He destroyed some when he reacted, so now we got to film it this way. So I don't know, but I do like the idea of just going, so if he had not emotionally reacted, how would it have looked?
Right.
Kit Harington. Let's move on to old Jon Snow.
For what we got, 5.
Okay.
I don't know why I was expecting him to be a bigger part of the movie. It wouldn't have made sense for him to be, and that's definitely not a complaint. Mm-hmm. But I when I was watching it, I was disappointed that he was sidelined when he was introduced and then sidelined. But it wouldn't have made sense for him to be in any of the situations that happened without him anyways. So 5.
True. Orey?
It's Thursday. I'm gonna give him a 10. I'm adding in the fact that
Orey just keeps on giving whatever number. Between like 1 and 100.
It's like who's finding it anyway. The points are made up. They don't matter.
Exactly. This is Orey.
She's like, Oprah, you get a 10. You get a 20.
I'm gonna get
under your seats. You all just got a brand new
We've
home.
not even made it to like my favorite characters yet. Calm down. Okay, so I'm giving him 10. 5 for him being in this movie. He was fantastic and adorable, and I loved him. Yeah. But an extra 5 because after Game of Thrones, because somebody hasn't watched it.
Shame.
He was kind of lost. He didn't know what he was going to be doing. He was depressed and sad, and he was really just heartbroken that Game of Thrones was done filming, and he lapsed into depression. And it was so good to see him on the screen in this movie and kind of shining a lot more than I expected him to. And of course, I love his hair. I just want to touch it. His hair is so nice.
Jay. We had a problem with Orey crying last episode. Now we're going to have a problem with her drooling if we keep this up.
I don't know. It's weird because I've never really seen Kit Harington do anything. Never. I've never watched Game of Thrones. I've never seen anything he's done. So I automatically am kind of like, I can't tell why he was cast because I feel like there's such a hype around it being a knight because of Game of Thrones, that there's not a real reason other than he's a knight, Jon Snow, get the fans excited. So I was like, why are you here? But I get that they have that relationship and that Icarus had to have a reason to be mad at her. Yeah. But, I like the ending. I like the post-credit scene and what it implies, but not because of him, because of the other person.
Well, his personality very much fits with his character. I mean, it's that kind of like bookworm, kind of unsure of himself, not sure how to deal with things. I think he did it very well.
Well,
I think when you
those
see
of
him
us
more,
that
you're
have
going to
watched
love him
it-
more. You're
Yeah,
going
and I
to
know
see what we
the Black
see out of
Knight's
him.
thing is. I know what the Ebony Blade does, so I'm excited to see someone explore that. So I'm gonna give him a 4 because I'm excited for the future of it. So.
And we're gonna watch Game of Thrones together, right, guys?
Oh my God.
Marathon.
There's 2 of us now.
Game
I
of
just
Thrones
picture
watch party.
I just picture us just all in pajamas with a bucket of popcorn. Just
Go get
all
my
right,
Jon Snow
let's
glass.
show him, and then we just years
Well, we'll
pass.
skip season 7 because you guys don't need that pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh, Black Knight, Kit Harington.
Yeah, so for me, I'm just gonna agree with Beard again because I really, again, I don't have the Game of Thrones to reference or much else to reference, and he's in the movie so little. But again, I completely understand why. So there's really nothing for me to criticize in his character or what he did for the 5 lines that he has throughout the movie or whatever it is. You know, he's a couple quick little scenes. But I'm excited to see what is to come for him and his character, the potential there.
Same. I'm giving him a 5 just because I have seen Game of Thrones. I see a lot of parallels between the Black Knight and the Jon Snow character, and I saw what he did with Jon Snow. Thus, I know what he's gonna. I can predict that he's going to do very well as the Black Knight, and for this to be an introductory movie, because that's one of my main complaints of Captain Marvel. Like, they didn't introduce her early on in the MCU. They threw her in at the end, in my opinion. They could have like referenced her a few times and stuff like that, and they didn't. So for this movie to not be about him, but to have him in it was pretty well done, I thought.
Yeah.
I actually could have done with less of him, if that's even a thing, because then it would have added to the mystery of what's he doing, what's he up to, what's going on with him. I do wish we would have had a scene where he got the box, though. Like in the movie, like he gets a phone call from Cersei or something, and he's looking like, give me the hang up scene from his viewpoint where he sets it down and the box is there and it's wrapped or whatever, and he's just looking at it like, oh, I got some explaining to do when I talk to her again, or something. I think that would have been interesting, but yeah, 5.
I think we will see. I think when we saw him in the beginning of the movie, I don't think he knew anything about the sword or his family history or nothing. And when we're seeing him in that phone call, he had just learned some. You can tell he's got some fresh knowledge. So we're seeing like the second scene of something we're going to see in the future.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's what's going on.
Let's move these along as quickly as possible because we still have a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Kumail Nanjiani as Kingo.
5.
This is Beard's favorite character. Yeah. Awesome
Loved him.
comedian. If you haven't checked out his stand-up, you should.
It's hilarious.
He's a great guy. Orey, Kingo.
10. Just 10.
10. Whatever.
10!
Golden
Jay.
Star.
So I'm gonna be as quick as I can just to say that I love the complexity of the character thrown at the end when he was like, I agree with him, but I'm not gonna hurt you just because I do. I'm out. And I was like, he's gonna come right back. And then he didn't. And I was like, wow, I love that he did not come back. And I love that even in the end, he still winds up with them and is going to have to help them get out of wherever Arishem takes them. I don't know if this is a separate character we're going to talk about, but Karun is the GOAT, and I love that little guy.
I have him on
valet.
Here.
Okay,
Harish
awesome.
Patel. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, I give Kingo, I also say a 5, also because thirst, because Kumail got swole, and I loved it.
He got swole, they didn't even give him a shirtless scene. It's
right, he did the whole Chris Pratt thing. He did it better than Chris Pratt did it, but they didn't even...
I will say it was a nice, it was a refreshing take for Marvel to actually follow through with something that they said. For Kingo to walk away, and you're sitting there thinking, oh, he's gonna just come right back because it's a superhero movie. He's gonna come right back, and then he didn't. It's like, oh, okay. It's almost as if they had actually let Coulson stay dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. took care of that for us. So,
technically, that's canon adjacent.
Technically, you're correct. Josh, what did you think of Kumail Nanjiani's performance of Kingo?
I'm also going to say a 5. Very entertaining, very funny, great character. I agree with everything you guys said. It's a 5 for me, dog.
Okay. I'm going to give him a 6 just because I haven't given a higher point. A 5 for bringing the character to life, and an extra bonus point just because he is one of my favorite comedians, and the fact that we got to inject that so naturally into the MCU. It wasn't like it's almost like having Jeff Goldblum in Ragnarok. That was interesting.
Oh, hey, Jordan.
Well, he's my favorite part of that movie. He's my favorite part of any movie.
What about and I might mess this name up. Leah McHugh as Sprite. What did we think of Sprite's portrayal?
3.5.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say about it.
I don't have much to say. Yeah.
And not having much to say about it says why I scored. It's just 3.5.
I'm going to say 3 because I really like the mischief character, like Loki, or like a lot of other characters in different movies and comics, etc. I like the mischievous one, the tricky one. Could be really fun, and I think there's definitely room for you to do it differently than Loki's being done and put your own kind of spin on it. Not that I think that Sprite copied Loki. I just don't think Sprite really did enough to like set herself apart as like, oh wow, what a cool character. Not that she did anything horrible that I hated her, but just nothing to really set herself apart.
Honestly, for me, it was her acting. I didn't believe enough in her plight. Like I part of it I did, the being young forever, the whole Tinkerbell, but it just, it didn't sink in enough. And I think that was maybe some of the writing that was the issue. They tried to make it too much like Tinkerbell. And so it became very weak. And I could punch holes in it all day.
Yeah. I talked about this in the last episode a little bit, but it made me very uncomfortable. Even though the character was old, having this actress portray a character who is longing after an adult actor, it made me uncomfortable. But they didn't focus on it too much, so it didn't ruin the movie for me. But that's kind of why I brought my score down a little bit. I didn't like it. I don't hate someone for liking it because the characters are fine, but it made me personally uncomfortable.
Jay,
so what's your number, Orey? Did you give a number?
Or did Orey give a number?
3.
3. Okay. Jay?
I'm gonna also say 3. I feel like I really like what they did with the whole, I was made this way. I didn't ask to be made this way. I'll never get to experience the things that you've all experienced. But I will say that even though that was something that she really, really badly wanted, and that Cersei may have felt that she needed to justify something along the way, I feel that rewarding her for what she did and she stabbed her in the back.
Literally backstabber.
I've never stabbed anyone in the back. That's such a boring form of betrayal. You've literally stabbed people in the back like 50 times. I'd never do it again.
Yes.
Like a literal backstabber.
You're going to reward that by giving her exactly what she wants.
Right.
I mean, sure, also, you took her powers away.
She said sorry.
Is it too late now to say sorry?
Yeah.
She was so fair enough. Well, that makes it all better.
She was like, "Oh, my bad. I'm real sorry about that."
We didn't die. I'm sorry, guys.
Like, what part of Cersei's power established? Because we know that the thing that they were using amplified their powers in a way, but it didn't make them like do whatever they want. What about her powers makes her able to make her age? That
I know the answer to that question.
Okay,
it's the power called plot device.
Oh.
It's a very sneaky power that only the main character normally has. But yes, it's the power of plot device.
Almost as good as plot armor.
Right. I'm gonna give Sprite a 4 just because I know, like, same reasons for you guys, but extra point because she actually is 16. So for this to be her debut MCU movie, she's 16 years old. The writing obviously was a problem a little bit. They could have harped less on the fact that she was obsessed with Icarus. I feel like she could have just taken the Kingo stance of he's like my brother, and he's never led me astray. They could have done that whole role, but they focused too much on the Tinkerbell. So 4. Yeah.
I think that's why I didn't agree with any of the relationships between the Eternals, because it did kind of have a family feel to me, and they even kind of talked with themselves like they're a family, and like I could see them all sitting down for Thanksgiving dinner. So like any of them having crushes on the other,
they do sit down for a Thanksgiving meal. When they're with Gilgamesh, they literally all sit down at a table and eat a very
the spit wine meal. I remember the spit wine.
I love the spit wine tape.
Next character, Brian Tree Henry, or is it Trey Henry?
Tyree.
Yes.
See, I was wrong on both counts. Brian Tyree Henry as Phastos. Yeah.
100 out of 100, big gold star, chef's kiss, all of the above. Just he was the heart and soul of the if someone's the heart and soul, really loved him.
He's a great character.
And
Orey?
He's a 20 for me. He's fingers and toes. Okay. He made me cry in the theater when he's saying goodbye to his husband. I'm gonna cry again.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't.
I cried when he reacted to the bombing.
That got me too.
We were still early on, learning about these characters, and I'm already kind of feeling for him. He wasn't sure if he wanted to share his powers with the world, and then he does, and he sees the destruction it can cause, and it breaks his heart because they love humanity so much, and it's like that's heart and soul right there.
Yeah, I agree. Jay, what do you think?
Well, of course, I'm going to give him a 5 for many reasons. But number one for me is that, like we discussed before, I feel like if anybody's the heart and soul of this movie, it is him. And that is because, yes, Cersei has a relationship with a human being, but he has a whole family that he's built. And he's the one that became hardened to humanity after witnessing what we did with their help and their advancements. And I feel like focusing on that, if you're going to tell the history of the human race, I mean, that's a pivotal character right there. He should have been the centerpiece of this.
Yeah.
Because his powers, above all their others, were pushing thriving humanity. Yeah. So I'm going to, like I said, a 5, and also the fact that he's excellent representation for people like me, and finally seeing Brian Tyree in a live-action Marvel role after he was in Spider-Verse and Joker.
Yeah.
I thought it was really great to see, because he's so great as an actor. Yeah. He's great in just about everything he does. So I'm glad he's here now.
Josh.
I'm going to have to give him a Gordon Ramsay absolutely beautiful in this one. So 5 out of 5 for sure. And all the same reasons, not really anything to complain about with this character as far as the acting or the writing, really. I think this is somewhere where the writing really, really shined for a character. So
almost like they wrote him to be the main character, then we're like, wait, no, this story's not about him. Oh, we'll keep everything anyway. It's okay.
They cared about his character.
I also give him a 5. I mean, he's my favorite character Anyway. So, but yeah, I thought I've seen his husband in this film somewhere before too.
Yeah.
It's one of those like I can't put my finger on it, but I know I've seen him somewhere. So
race to IMDb.
Yeah.
Another great thing I loved is how he had some character development off screen that was great. Like when we find him after the bombings, he has given up on humanity. Like he even says something along those lines, like he's done with them. Yep. And then when we see him in the future, he's not giving up on humanity. He's not helping with technology because he doesn't trust them. But he, like you guys all said, that he's submerged with them and he hasn't given up on them. He loves them now.
And that happens off screen. His family. Yeah, he says that. Yeah. It's like what drastic change happened. And like I would have loved to have seen that. Like it happened though. It wasn't just like glossed over. Like they made a point to say, here's the last time we saw him, and now here, and there's this drastic change, and they did not like avert away from it.
Well, it was probably finding his partner and falling in love, and they probably didn't want to put too much emphasis on it because we all know how powerful China is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's really try to get through the rest of these.
We're all
very
just
quickly.
ranting.
Very quickly.
This is pretty much going to be the episode.
This is going to be the episode.
We're getting into some good topics.
Let's talk Makari, Lauren Ridloff. Rating. Brian. 5. Orey.
5.
5. Jay.
5.
Josh. 5.
I love a speedster. I love a speedster.
I'm going to say 5 as well. Now, and this guy surprised me, and I cannot pronounce his last name. So I'm the guy that played Druig,
Barry Keoghan.
Keoghan, playing Druig. Waiting.
Orey,
are you okay?
I love and hate this character.
About 10%.
Hold on. Okay, whew, I gotta breathe. I love him in this role. He is a 50. He's like 100. The whole scene where they're fighting at the temple, and he's like, I can't stand watching them do this. And like you see him breaking down and just falling apart, and like I can't let them do this. And he walks down and he takes those people off. I like gutturally cried because I'm like, I hate that you have this power, but thank you for using it. You're also a horrible human being because you've taken away their, who they are.
Well, you're an awful homo immortalis, but
like I thought that scene with him was so heavy. And he played it very well, and that was one of the scenes that Marvel allowed to sink in.
Yeah,
and it was beautiful. He was fantastic in this movie, and I can't say enough good things about him. And I love and hate him.
So a 5 then.
Yes.
I think she said 50, 100, and 50, then maybe like 50, 1 or 2 other numbers. Yeah. But
there's a lot of numbers.
Let me grab my calculator. I'll add that up.
Thanks, Josh.
What did you think of?
I'm giving
Barry.
I'm giving 4.5, and this is a very slight thing. For a while there, I was kind of getting Ezra Miller vibes from the first.
Credence.
Fantastic
Beasts.
Credence was great in the second one, but I got those Credence vibes from the first one a little bit there, and I didn't love it. I
agree, but
he was a great character. The actor did great. It's a very slight niche.
No, don't talk bad about Barry. Anyway.
Jay.
I really enjoyed his character. I'm going to start by saying there's a movie on Netflix that isn't going to be for everybody because it is weird. But it is called Killing of a Sacred Deer, and he is in it, and he plays this 17-year-old kid, and he's disturbed. It is incredible. Also, and I'm not going to get too much into it because I don't know if anything around it is true or not, but, there are discussions on the deep sides of the internet that he's Matt Reeves' pick for the Joker. which
Ooh.
I'm really, really digging after I saw Killing of Sacred Deer and Eternals. So if that's really what they're going with, because he's in it, we know he's in the Batman somehow, but if that's what it is, I'm going to really enjoy that.
Okay.
So I'm going to give him a 5.
Okay. Josh.
You stole my thunder a little bit, Jay, because I was actually going to bring up the Joker point there. I had also read that and seen that, and
this is what happens when we collaborate with other nerds of other podcasts.
That's right. Hey, listen. Here's what we're going to do: edit Jay's out, and I'm going to drop it again now. Okay. All right.
Put Jay after him and just make it like.
Make it so I said it first. No. So where was I? I sidetracked myself. So I was trying to stay concise. Jeez. I think that
that doesn't happen on this show, John.
Seriously, jeez. I think that the actor did a really good job. I'm tempted to give him a 3 or a 4. I'll give him a 4, I guess, because there were things about it that I couldn't really put my finger on, but there was parts, and maybe it's sort of what the beard was saying, but at some point in the show, I got to stop agreeing with him. I think there were some weird
the beard,
vibes.
It's entrancing into it.
Right. It's hypnotizing. So I think that there was parts that made it difficult for me to look away from awkward sort of weirdness, and then as the character developed and you saw those really raw moments that Orey was talking about, that's where he kind of really hit you at home. That being said, I have seen him in a couple of different of his works, and I completely agree with Jay to where if this is where they're going, if it is going to be Joker, I could see a lot of potential for a very, very good Joker out of this guy. So,
do I really look like a guy with a plan?
It's exciting.
I'm going to give him a 5, and I do agree that I think one of the things that I wanted to give him a 4, but I really can't. Mostly because this is not the first time we've seen his type of power. The last time we saw it was in WandaVision, and I did not like that about WandaVision. Like the fact that, because it's like the climax of the whole thing is she finds out she's been controlling these people accidentally. She didn't, she knew, but she didn't know. And she didn't know the pain she was causing them. And for him to willingly, knowingly do it, it upset me. Like it was
It definitely is upsetting. It's supposed to upset you though, but he rationalizes it, and it shows how easily sometimes you can rationalize horrific, terrible things. His rationalization is they're at peace right now. They have no free will.
That's why I love and hate him.
We talked about this in the previous episode. I remember we were discussing the different powers, which ones we would like, wouldn't like. And again, this mind control, we definitely touched on this, that is definitely something that's like as cool as it would be to have. I mean, you would have to be like 10 out of 10, like 1,000% worthy of holding the hammer to be able to have a power like that, because otherwise you're going to abuse it. You're going to do awful things because it's just too easy to do. How do you like morally take over somebody's mind and control them? How do you do that and uphold some sort of moral code at the same time?
Right.
You know, it's funny that you bring that up, and our comic book listeners and viewers will know what I'm talking about, and some of y'all might as well. It's funny that you bring up Thor in that analogy, because there actually is a whole storyline in the comic books where Thor decides to just come to Earth and be a benevolent god. And against Odin's wishes, Odin's like, if you do too much for them, they'll become dependent on you. And he thought he was doing the right thing. He comes to Earth, he grants every wish, everyone's prospering, but it's much like in WandaVision where it is nice, it is peaceful, but you're confusing peace with quiet, like Ultron says in Age of Ultron, because they can't do anything on their own. Anytime there's strife, they're not worried about the consequence like that it could cause each other. They're worried about the consequence of this benevolent God that has come to live among them.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that you bring up that analogy, because that's a whole storyline of Thor's where he has to learn, oh, I need to back off. And the Avengers, I think, have to challenge him to tell him to stop. Like, hey, this is great that you're doing this. It's awesome, but it's also bad. So you can't.
Okay. I want to kind of point out, like, he as an actor has made us have this conversation about psychology and thought process, and that says something to
He's in our heads.
He's in our heads. Like he planted that seed, and it's going to stay with us. So
like he's a great actor. That my 0.5 that I took away from him was literally just the Credence vibes that I got. Maybe I didn't.
I'm going to make you give it back. Give it back.
All right. Next one is Jay. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this. Please tell me that you can. He played Gilgamesh.
Oh, well, he has a name that he goes by over it. Don Lee.
Yes.
Don Lee. Okay.
Yes.
See, I didn't put that name in here, so yeah.
Yeah, Don Lee.
Yeah. Beard. What do you give Don Lee?
5.
5. Yeah.
He was great.
Orey.
He was.
This is my favorite character. Okay. So I cannot give him a score because I'm very biased, which is like 1,000. So I thought he was absolutely fantastic. How he played with Angelina Jolie was like heartwarming, and him, you know, just being caring and loving, but this big, strong man was it was too much for me, and my ovaries exploded. There you
go. So not that you should rate him, but if you were gonna rate him, like, you definitely shouldn't rate him. But if you're gonna, like, in an alternate universe somewhere, what would you rate him?
A solid, like, 5 trillion. But within the realm of normal, he's a 5.
But that's definitely not a rating.
That's not a rating.
Yeah.
He gets 5 for that, you know, being able to punch 5 fingers.
Yeah.
5-finger death punch.
I loved him so much.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm really disappointed that they got rid of him so quickly. I know that there's multiple copies of them, but like, we don't know for sure that they're going to utilize that in the future.
No, we don't.
And my thing is, as somebody who I really enjoy the stuff that Neil Gaiman did with the Eternals back in the day, and I like Jack Kirby's Eternals stuff. And something that both really talk about is, you know, Gilgamesh has this storyline in the comics where he's called the Forgotten One, and now I feel like we'll never get that storyline. Since they possibly finished his story so quickly. But that's, I guess you just deal with that when you've got a big cast.
Yeah.
But I give him a 5. I really enjoyed
his death meant something. His death.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Like that.
He gave Crow the ability to communicate, and you know, it served a purpose.
Which is funny because he had absorbed Ajax before that, and you would think like Ajax would have given him the ability to speak. It was kind of funny that Gilgamesh was the one to give him the ability to speak, and then use that against Athena.
Angelina,
I'll go ahead and jump into my rating. I'm also going to say a 5, and I'll just speak to the psychology of that really quick. I think it makes a lot of sense, and it was very purposeful that you have the character Gilgamesh, the one person that could actually get through and communicate to Athena when Athena was being berserk and being crazy. He was the only one that could really get through to her. And ironically, also not ironically, it was definitely very purposeful. They made that be the one that gave the Deviant the ability to speak and to communicate with the other Eternals. I think that was very purposeful. Definitely a 5 for me. I think he did a great job. And one other point I wanted to make is I really don't think he's going to come back. I don't think Icarus is going to come back either, because I think Marvel has learned that the deaths need to mean something. And if you just bring the characters back all the time, it doesn't mean anything when they die. That's one thing that the comics actually sort of suffer from, is that when Captain America dies, when Superman dies, everybody's like, cool, when they're coming back. It doesn't carry the same weight anymore because they just keep getting brought back.
And James Gunn
every
is
word
really
you just
good
said.
about James Gunn really is good about killing off characters and saying, never again are you coming back. You will never see the light of day again.
My rating for Don is definitely going to be a 5. We had a comment in like the Umbrella Holics episode where they were like they thought he was weak. Gilgamesh's character was weak because they killed him off so easily. I think is why they said that. I do agree that he should have gone out a little bit baller, but at the same time, in the overall picture of the movie, it makes sense.
Yeah,
it makes
he
sense.
Sacrificed himself for.
Yeah, he didn't just go down. He sacrificed himself. There's a difference. So I give him a 5. Talked a little bit about this next character, Harish Patel as Karun the goat. What are we rating him? Old Kingo's assistant, Beard.
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
Him. I love that he was there and that he even had, I cannot remember a word he said about it, but he had this whole like emotional moment where he gave some advice and it meant something. And I'm like, that's great. I couldn't tell you what it was, but I know I loved it.
Yeah. Orey?
5 when he just kept showing up with those cameras.
Yeah.
Always like just always bring backup, and he's got like 10 of them, and he's just like carrying them around. But no, he became a little bit of a heart and soul moment when he's saying goodbye to everybody, and he's like, I've got to go with the person I know. I love you guys, and I've had a great time, and it's been very interesting getting to know you. But you know, if things are gonna end, I got to go say goodbye to my family,
right?
Or I've got to peace out. So.
He definitely had one of those moments. Like they talk about it in I saw a meme about it the other day where in Guardians 1 it was the most organic but also most like true to the point expression of why do heroes do what they do. And it's the exchange between Rocket and Peter when he says, why would we save the universe? And Peter Quill's like, because I'm one of the assholes that lives in it. So but definitely Karun had that. He had the opposite of that more human explanation of it, and it had a lot of deeper meaning. So it may have been a recycled moment in a way, but it meant more coming from him, I feel like. So what did you think, Jay, of his portrayal?
I will say that one of my favorite scenes in the movie that really touched me and stuck with me is when he's praying at Gilgamesh's funeral.
Oh, yeah.
I really, and that's something that, and I'll get to this later, but, really hit home with me, is that you can't tell the story of the history of this planet without your cast representing the broad spectrum of different types of people. You've got people of different races, different religions, different identities. And having this human character be not only the human connection, but the religious connection to the whole thing about how they inspired the pantheons of gods. It just, and then when he was praying at the funeral and it was just so quiet and no music, nothing. It's just he's a really great way to anchor this story in humanity. Even though he was funny for most of it, he was like you said, he was a heart and soul character. So I'm gonna give him a 5.
Okay, Josh.
It's a 5 out of 5 for me too. Really, no complaints for this character. I think he did a great job of connecting the audience to the movie. He was sort of our window. He was sort of our ambassador. So, fantastic.
That's I didn't think about it like that until you said that. That's actually a really way to sum him up. It's like he is the human ambassador to this movie. Like,
they're called audience placeholders. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're characters
I like
that represent us. Yeah.
Yeah. I give him a 5 as well. Overall, he was just great. The comedy aspects, the human connection, very well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's talk Bill Skarsgård as Crow, and then we have Harry Styles as Eros. So
5 and 5.
Those 5 and 5. We've already talked a lot about Bill Skarsgård's Crow.
Yeah, 5 and 5.
Yeah.
I love how it's just such a small scene with Star Fox. Firefox is a search engine. Not a search engine, an internet engine.
Star Fox is an N64 character, but we're not going to talk about that.
Do a
barrel roll.
Think about this character, but I love how ridiculous he came in. Like,
yep,
yeah,
he came in as sex appeal. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's literally what I mean. That's the character
too. That's a big thing about his character.
I was looking at pictures of the animated version of this character, and it works.
It's great casting. It's a great pick.
It's good casting. Orey, Crow, and Eros.
5 and 5.
All right, Jay.
5 and 5. I really like that Harry Styles is in the MCU, and I'm going to throw in a really interesting comic book thing that I really hope happens. His character, his powers are that he can affect the pheromone levels in any given area and make women swoon over him.
Can't Harry Styles already do that?
Yeah, it's Harry Styles.
And that leads to him in the comics. Somebody files a sex assault charge against him, and he's represented by Jennifer Walters. And I really hope this happens in She-Hulk. I don't care how obscure and how weird it is. Just to have him show up in a courtroom would be hilarious.
We just need a offshoot of the She-Hulk show where it's like little shorts of Jennifer representing people that she represented in the comics, like a kind of a Harvey Birdman attorney at law kind of thing.
Harvey Birdman, attorney at law.
That's when she can break the fourth wall.
Hold on, this is her TikTok moment.
Yeah, there you go. Josh, Crow and Eros.
So for Crow, I'm gonna give Crow a 2, actually. For 2 reasons. I want to be different first, and also
screw y'all.
The beard powers are wearing off.
Right. There wasn't anything really bad to point at, but there wasn't really anything good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There just wasn't. It was sort of a forgettable. It's one of my complaints with the movie in general. Is he was kind of a forgettable villain because the villain's really Icarus. You know?
Yep.
And you don't know it until the end, but you don't really feel. You feel the loss of the characters, but you just don't really feel this deviant because it doesn't. It's basically it's metamorphosizing throughout the movie like a butterfly, and once it's finally all beautiful at the end and speaking and everything, you know,
it's killed.
It's sort of irrelevant. So I'll give that a 2.
Yeah.
And I'll give a 5 for our friend Star Fox, just because, again, similar with our Kit character, is that we don't really have much screen time, so it's kind of hard to like sit down and like break down. Oh, how did he deliver this great performance? I mean,
he came out
in the 5 seconds.
Hold on, he came out.
I've never read Shakespeare, but I imagine this is better.
Yeah. I'm gonna give 5s. Across the board for both of those as well. So I thought they were very well done. I do dislike the fact that right as we get, Skarsgard's voice coming out of this thing, then it dies. But hey, it is what it is. Some information for this movie. Now that we're finally done with the cast, the release date was November 5th of 2021. The budget was $200 million. And just in its opening weekend alone, it made $71 million estimated. So, and that's that's a month back now. So there's no telling what those numbers are at the time of this release. Man, we still got a lot to talk about.
Part 2. I mean, part 3. I mean, part 4 and part 5.
We touched on it a little bit, but we talked about it a little bit in the first episode, I believe. We pretty much said, since this isn't our realm, we're not going to talk on it, but Jay's here now and he can discuss it with us. So, and I also love giving Jay a platform to put, stuff out there. Like we've had conversations through message, I just really, and I'm sure everyone else, well, Josh, I mean, maybe later, but might affect
further on down. We'll
but
get there.
I really appreciate Jay's opinion. I respect his opinion on especially on stuff like this. So let's talk representation. Jay, to you, as a member of Fandom for All, as a member of the community, as a person, a bright, shining human being that is the Jay Nerdsquatch that we know, what did this movie mean to you as far as representation is concerned?
I have a very I wouldn't even say it's complex. It's pretty much bare minimum standard when it comes to what I look for in representation. I don't believe that queer characters should be stereotypes. I feel like pushing the limit, putting them in a box, it just isn't fair to the character. There's a lot of positive instances that I've seen recently that I think are really well done, but what I look for is you don't make a big deal out of it. You do it as naturally as you do any other scene in the movie. And I felt that was really well done here. I felt that Phastus's scene with his husband was more natural than the intimacy scene between Icarus and
Agreed.
And Cersei.
Yes.
And that is not because of personal bias. More people in my theater groaned at them than and nobody made a noise when Phastus kissed his husband, but there was audible
natural.
Noises. Right.
You could replace the character and it wouldn't have changed anything, but it still had an impact, which is awesome.
Right. And I'll give an example of something else I've watched recently. I don't know how many of you guys are fans of or have watched Ted Lasso, but they don't really focus super hard on it. But there's one scene in one episode where Trent Krim from The Independent walks up to Ted, but before he does, he tells this man beside him to go on out and that he'll be out in a minute. And he walks up and the scene continues. That's it. It's all
so natural.
Right. You don't need to make it all about that one thing. And I feel like by trying to make it all about that one thing, we're setting ourselves aside and not making everybody in the scene equal.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate how it was done here in the representation for the queer community, but also for people of color. I mean, look, the whole cast is this beautiful spectrum of people, and each person does what they need to do. They get it done. They're all talented, and it just shows that casting doesn't always have. I mean, look at Jeffrey Wright. This man has dealt with about Gordon since he was cast. Yeah. But then that trailer drops and you see the haircut, you see them, everything fades away. And he's perfect. Yeah. There are just times when stuff doesn't matter. Yeah. And I really appreciate that movies are starting to branch out and not give concern to haters and give people platforms regardless of what will happen at the box office.
And it felt so natural. Like, it absolutely felt so natural, and it was so wonderful to watch.
The toxicity surrounding it and the blow up that it had, that all happened before the movie even dropped. And that's why I knew it was going to be a conversation, and it wasn't even the movie's fault that it was a conversation. It was the toxic fans who wanted to hate it before they even saw it.
Yeah.
And it's just, you can have your opinions, but when it turns toxic, it's just, don't.
I want to play devil's advocate here just for a second. I mean, I agree. I love the representation. The movie I have no real qualms with it, but I do want to play devil's advocate when it comes to that. There is a group of people and that didn't get, I think their voice got mixed in with the people that were just hating it because they're homophobic or they're racist and stuff like that. There is a group of people out there that have the theory of the stories in the comics are already great. Why are you changing it? They're not toxic about it. They're just asking the question like, hey, why does Ajax now all of a sudden need to be a female? The character that we grew up loving is already a good character. There's already a huge storylines out there that have nothing to do with you changing stuff like that. But they're not toxic about it. But I think their voice gets mixed in. Like, because there is the other side there. Now there's toxicity on both sides. There are the toxic people in the community that go, well, if you didn't like it, then you're a bigot and stuff like that. That's not true all the time necessarily. It's a lot of gray. It's a lot of gray area, because there are those people that say, like Valkyrie in Thor Ragnarok. Why does she need? I don't agree. I think the actress choice was great, and it doesn't really matter because the Valkyries were a collection of Asgardians, so it doesn't matter. But there are people that did jump on the bigot racist wagon and say, why does she have to be black? Okay, shut up. But
She was
but there
perfect for the part. Shut up.
right. But there were people that were saying similar things, not out of a place of hate, but were saying the character in the comic books is already great. Why are you having to change? And there are some people that say Disney is doing this as a means to you know, there's the side that says, oh, they're finally including people, great. But then there's other people that are suspicious of big companies like Disney that say you're not doing it to actually include anybody, you're doing it to expand your fan base, and that's evil. So, and it's, you know, it's a gray areas all around. So yeah,
I would
toxic,
also pose the
as soon as you
question
get
back
toxic
though,
about it,
what
you know,
I would pose the question back, why is it a problem to change? Why do things always have to be a repeat of the original? I like something being fresh.
To those people, those stories and those characters are already perfect.
Okay,
that's
we're
why.
also and that's fine for them, but for me, I would hate if everything was comic book accurate. I love it when they just say, no, we're not doing this the way it was in the comics. We're doing our own thing because this isn't the comics. This is the MCU. So if it's not like thrown in the face and like blatantly like out of control,
yeah, no, this movie did a great job of not throwing like the people that the bigots and stuff, the toxic fans that were like, oh, it's the gay kiss scene and all that. It wasn't even in your face. Shut up. Yeah, like, and you knew it was going to be there. So why'd you go and watch it if you were going to have a problem with it? Like,
well, my response to the people who their qualm is with, why do you have to change it? Because I think there is a very educated way to look at a response. And it's that when these characters were created, the industries were dominated by one type of person for the most part, and that is straight white men. And therefore...
Or closeted...
Right, but therefore now that we're adapting these stories for a modern audience, a lot of it that was written back in that time needs to be updated because we have broader forms of representation nowadays. Because we are living in a world where there can be people of color leading films. Because when these characters were created, they weren't dominating an industry. You know? And so I think...
that's true.
And I personally, there are some characters that I wouldn't bat an eye if they changed. But, you know, it makes sense. Don't touch T'Challa. Don't change that because it's so tied to who he is culturally, ethnically. But, like, if Reed Richards were to be... Like, my fan cast for Reed Richards is John David Washington, who is Denzel Washington's son. Yes. He's who I want to see in the role. I know a lot of people hate it. I don't care.
I agree with you, Jay.
Reed has nothing that keeps him from being...
Unless it's Jason Sudeikis.
See, that's my other fan cast.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I just want to jump off of what you said, Bear, because I totally... understand that side of things too, because there's definitely a difference between just being homophobic or being racist or being a toxic human being and asking questions or wondering things. And I think I think it's appropriate to ask the questions and call out Marvel and say, why are you doing this? Because there's multiple cases of large companies making either hires of certain ethnicities or sexual orientations or whatever, race, gender, just so that they could say, hey, look what we did. Aren't we awesome because we did this? And what I really appreciate about Eternal specifically, to bring it back to the movie, is there wasn't any point.
Wait, we've been talking about a movie this whole time?
Yes. There wasn't
they weren't taking a stance. They weren't like... It was just,
there wasn't anything that I felt like was jarring, and I think it's important to understand that you have a lot of different people with a lot of different life experiences and beliefs, and it's okay to have conflicting things, but you just don't want to have I've seen it before where it's sort of like in your face, like, look, here's a gay character, here's a black character, here's all these things, and we're doing it because, hey, look at us. And I feel like Eternals did a really good job of not doing that. It was like, we have a character who's deaf. We have characters that are black, that are white, inclusive, that are gay. You know, we have all these different things because we're trying to show humanity. This movie is very largely about humanity. So if you didn't do a good job of showing the spectrum of humanity, then you did a bad job of making this movie.
Yep. Agreed.
Exactly. I just personally don't understand how people can have frustration. Like, one of the things that I saw the most coming out was everyone kept saying the term, it's an agenda. It's an agenda. And you can tell just watching this movie, there was no agenda. It was just life happening.
Mm-hmm. Now, did they say the agenda before or after? Because I think that's the big discerning thing. If you're worried about it beforehand, if you're just asking the question like, hey, Marvel, are you just trying to get PR points here? Or are you actually trying to make a really good movie?
If you ask the question before the movie and then go see the movie and see that you were wrong, and then you admit that you're wrong, then you're a good bean. You're a good bean.
Absolutely.
If you go, they're only doing this as an agenda, so I'm not going to go see the movie, and then you don't go see the movie and you keep harping that it's an agenda without actually seeing the source material that you're talking about, then
you're talking out of your ass, basically.
Essentially. I mean, there's no nice way to say it. You need to give it a chance. Mm-hmm. So it's like we told people in the first episode, in the first part, the people that said it was boring, give it a rewatch. Yeah. If you're one of those people that is refusing to see this movie, which I don't know how you made it like almost 3 hours into our podcast, but if you have made it this far, let me tell you, give it a watch.
Yeah.
See if you're actually, because if you're listening, Mama Bear said it best, I believe, when we were walking out of the theater. She said, I have never been more pissed, I think is what she said, at the toxic fandom than I am right now. I said, why? She said, because they almost made me not go see this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's not to say, and I said this exact thing in the last episode, it's not Avengers Endgame, but anyone who has that expectation, you're putting Marvel on a pedestal that they're never going to live up to.
You're cheating yourself if you have that expectation.
I definitely get why people could think it's boring, because it's not a typical Marvel movie shoving action in your face. And if that's
not all explosions, it doesn't look like a Michael Bay fest. And
there was no sky beam. There was no sky beam. Why did we have a sky beam,
monster coming out of the crust of the earth?
To wrap up the representation, I have a quote here from Gemma Chan, who says, she plays Cersei, obviously. She says, quote, there are going to be so many young boys and girls out there who are going to see themselves in a film like this, perhaps for the first time. And that's really exciting and significant. But also, I feel like it's probably something that should just be normalized. I mean, this is what humanity is like. This is the breadth of humanity, and it should be rightfully so. It should be represented on screen. So that sums up the represent. It's like it's normalized, it's not in your face, and it should be on screen. And I completely agree. Mm-hmm. I thought this movie did a great job. More so better than some of the other. Like, there's no real humanity in the MCU if you look at it on a whole. It's like there's humanity here. No, I don't think so.
Just Tony Stark's ego.
Yeah.
I seriously don't know how you fit your head into that helmet.
It is somehow still Tony Stark's ego, and he has been dead for about 2 years.
A second.
Well, Tony also created like 4 of the main villains of the MCU, so
I swear, Norman Osborn is going to show up from a totally different universe and be like, "Where's Tony Stark?"
I need somebody to do that. Just saying.
That would be awesome.
I'm just saying, and I'm just going to be like, "Why?
All right,
he's got Tony beef too.
Coming to the end of the episode, I guess let's start wrapping it up. Let's go with predictions for the future of the Eternals and the Eternals inside the MCU. Where it left off at the end of the movie, where do we all as individual nerds think it's going to go? Starting with my majestically bearded co-host.
I've been waiting for this because that judge, Erisham the judge, the fact that he's going to judge Earth, that I believe is, I don't think it's just the next Eternals movie. I think it's the big, huge thing. And I think it somehow could entangle with Kang the Conqueror, because how they deal that, I believe he's going to be watching the events of them fighting Kang, whatever Kang's got planned. And something about that, someone has to prove that humanity is worth it. because Arisham's not convinced at this point, and it's going to take a lot to convince him.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna tie it in, and I really think that who's gonna save the day is Loki.
Which one?
I think
spoilers.
Tom Hiddleston's Loki. I think he is going to be the
Which
one.
one? Which one?
Oh God! The one that ends up in the the OG. I think the OG one he's gonna. I don't know. Like it's so freaking complex with him at this point.
I think Loki and Sylvie are gonna save the day, is what you're saying.
I think that him being able to like bring her back and how he evolved. I think the Lokiism is gonna save the day. Like the chaos the two of them bring and being able to come together and like kind of settle that. I think Arisham's gonna look at that and be like, "Hey, wait, this may be worth it."
Yeah. Because in another universe, the Eternals didn't stop Tiamat or whatever his name was from being emerged. So, yeah. Jay, what do you think? Future of the Eternals inside the MCU?
Okay, so I think that there are two things that really need to be discussed about what this really hits on as for the future. Because the Eternals are in space with Arishem, the ones that were left on Earth are in space, and the ones that went to space are also in space, so they're not on Earth. What are we going to have for the future of the Earth stories after this giant being has emerged from one side of the Earth? That water, follow me here, something has been exposed, and what I think has been exposed is Atlantis. And I think this sets up Black Panther 2 for Wakanda.
I didn't even think of that.
Because when something that big moves, the water's going to recede somewhere else. And I wouldn't be surprised if it exposed Atlantis. And apparently Latveria's involved in Wakanda Forever somehow. So
hold on. I was going to make an Aquaman joke, and then I'm like, that's DC.
Namor. Namor the Submariner.
The other route that this is definitely going, and because we've seen that Moon Knight takes place in London, I think this is straight up setting up Midnight Suns. There is no way that post-credit scene that Blade is not going to be the Nick Fury of the dark MCU. That he's in London getting Dane. Yes. He's going to show up in Moon Knight. And they're going to assemble the Midnight Suns because I think it's all going to culminate in Multiverse of Madness because Strange is a member as well. So I think that's where we're going with Blade.
Okay.
Definitely.
Bruh! My mind is blown.
There's so much buildup between this and the Disney Plus shows.
Yep. I'm surprised there wasn't a lot of mutant hint, because that's their origin.
Don't steal my thunder. Don't do it again.
Okay.
Don't do it again.
All right, Josh.
I think we should go to Josh.
Josh, this is Josh's time to shine because I've watched several episodes of the Knights of the Nerds Table, and this is I feel like this is where Josh shines on his show. So
okay, so I have a couple of points that I want to make. Couple of things I want to bring up. The first thing is, as far as the movie goes specifically, I think this genre, seeing a darker, more real side of Marvel, was excellent for the future of Marvel movies. We were able to see them sort of dabble in a little bit more of a realistic world and more, we talked about the emotion, the humanity of it. They really harped on that in this movie. I think that was a good thing for the future of Marvel movies and how they could continue to build on that. Maybe fix some of the things they didn't do so well that we talked about writing and character development wise, but take the things that they were very successful with in this movie and carry it into future projects, which I hope they will do. And they've shown that they can do in the past, where they have shown the ability to accept where they failed and learn from it and move on and do better next time. We've seen it time and time again. I have all the faith in Kevin Feige and all those people.
In Feige we trust.
Yes, in Kevin we trust. Now, as far as theories go, there's a couple of things that are really, really exciting for me. So, mutants is the first thing. There hasn't been any direct mutant gene talk or mutants talk, right? We've got all kinds of like adjacent things. You know, we've got Deadpool, right? Where's Deadpool? And Deadpool worked with some of the X-Men, right? But he's not exactly ingrained in the MCU as we know it, but he's a Marvel character, and so are the X-Men, right? We have this movie. We have multiverses coming out. We have a very interesting rumor. Now, I hope you guys won't get mad at me for saying this, but there's a lot, you might already know, there is a lot of traction for the rumor that Hugh Jackman is going to be returning as Wolverine in the Multiverse of Madness Doctor Strange movie. There's a lot of traction. It's not just
Stu is supposed to be back too.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
The amount of cast that is returning for this movie is absolutely insane.
Yes. So
Ryan
now
Reynolds is also, this could just be a random thing, but on Google, Ryan Reynolds is cast for and we already know we know he's going to be in the MCU at some point, but
yes.
I kind of want to tie into your thing. Are you thinking there's a possibility we could see an Earth Prime situation similar to the CW?
Well, maybe. I'm more so thinking that with WandaVision and what they did with the Speedster, and what was his name again? It was Jay Boner or whatever.
Boner.
Oh,
Jay Bonner.
Yeah. So
it's a long way to go for a boner joke.
Right.
Yes, they have taken baby steps towards mutants and towards the X-Men, and they're going to get there. I am telling you, it's going to happen sooner than you think. Fantastic Four, all these things are very much how you bring mutants into the fold, how you bring them into this. There's X-Men movie on Disney Plus. Come on, guys, the writing's on the wall. It's going to happen. Spider-Man.
Yep.
That's coming out in just a couple of weeks, and we're going to get to see this multiverse split happen. We're going to start to get some answers to some of these questions and some of these rumors. But then we got the bomb dropped. They've confirmed 3 more movies for Tom Holland.
Yep.
It's
in the
confirmed
MCU.
In the MCU. So we're going to have
Which breaks my theory
movie
about him being trapped in another universe.
No.
That's what I thought was going to happen.
Tom. So my 2, I guess, big things is that we are absolutely going to see mutants and X-Men very, very soon. And I think the major villain that really needs to be brought to the fold here, I know they've got so many other things working. They've got Kang. They've got all this other crap. Doctor Doom needs to get brought to it. Because Doctor Doom is one of the most terrifying, most just bad guys that have ever been in comic books.
Yeah.
I don't know how familiar you guys are with Doctor Doom.
Yes.
Done.
Oh no, yeah.
He makes me question my
Thanos'
morals.
spine out once.
Right.
So there's that. So you want to talk about like, oh, we did Thanos, now what do we do? How about the guy that ripped his spine out? That might be a good, step up. So
What about Null?
There's
I have a feeling that Null is coming soon too. I've heard that Love and Thunder has something to do with Null because of the
Yes!
of the sword.
Okay, how many bad guys can we have that are just
But then
like
we've
epic?
got this. We've got the severed celestial head, right? We've got the Celestials being brought in. We've got the bad guy who has the sword that cut the celestial heads off. So
And you got Venom, and you've already got Venom being
yes.
The title to Spider-Man, I think, very much ties into all of this, and this kind of goes with Eternals too. The No Way Home thing. That's why I was bringing up the possible Earth Prime, because there's that. And I hate when people take one little tiny part of a trailer and make a whole theory about it, but that's exactly what I'm about to do. So there's that small moment in the end of the scene where someone's coming through. They're coming through. And everyone thinks it's going to be Toby and Andrew. I think they could be involved in the movie somehow. I still don't know what I believe on that. I have theories that contract other theories. But I don't think that line is about them. I think that's about other universes spilling into our universe right at the end, same way that we know Dr. Octavius and Venom and all these people are pouring into the universe.
Okay.
And there is no way for them to go home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think we're instead of calling it Earth Prime, it's called the Sacred Timeline.
Yeah,
we're creating our own sacred, like another sacred timeline is being created, but the multiverse is spilling into it to make this perfect sacred timeline. But and
I think it's a big chance.
If that's how they do it, that is very smart on like Kevin Feige and them. It's like, hey, we don't have to do introductory movies for these people. We're just gonna say that their movie already existed. And now it's now it's continually a part of our sacred timeline.
Well, that's my theory about what Venom and Kraven and Morbius are going to do, is that we're going to find out that they're taking place in universes we've seen before.
Yeah.
That Kraven
the main reason
Andrew and Morbius looks to be maybe Toby's universe, and that's how they'll keep telling their stories.
The main reason why I have this theory is I don't think Venom is going to be a part of this movie. I think he might be teased towards the end. I don't think he's going to be the sixth villain everyone thinks is coming. I think that when that thing is happening, they're all coming. They're coming through. I can't stop them. That is when these people start pouring in. I think that's also the same moment that we see that end credit scene happen in. And it would make sense because the Bear pointed out that news scene at the end credit scene of Let There Be Carnage, that wasn't the first broadcast we saw at the beginning of this movie, of No Way Home. So it could be a repeated broadcast right after whatever thing happens at the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
And it could also be the explanation of why Star Fox comes to the Eternals in his cutscene as well. I have a lot of similar theories.
Or the Ghostbusters.
At least not the ones Jay said, because I didn't even think of those. So, but yeah, I think the Eternals speaks a lot to the possibilities. Like I said, everyone that's expecting this to be Avengers Endgame level, we have to build from something again. That saga is over. We're building a new saga. So it's not going to be there. But when we get there, just mind blown.
I mean, we're only in 2 years of Phase 4 at this point.
Yeah, because technically Black Widow doesn't count as Phase 4. So we're actually, we're only 3 movies in, and that's Far From Home, Shang-Chi, and the Eternals. So
I mean, we're like 2 years in. Whereas with the other phases, it took 10 years to build.
Right.
I mean, we've got
it's even taken longer than that, because with the release of Hawkeye, we now have a solo project for every original Avenger, and it's taken this long to get that.
Can we talk about, just real quick for Hawkeye, can we talk about the fact that I would buy tickets to go see the Rogers Broadway musical?
I would too. I'm a Broadway nerd. I would too.
If they made that a thing, I would travel to New York and I would just be like Fry.
Shut up and take my money.
And I would go and see that musical, as cringy as it is. Well, guys, I think that's really about it. We've talked between 2 episodes now. I think we've talked for almost 2.5 hours. 3.5 hours, actually. So let's get to the Talk Nerdy segment real quick. Go ahead and play that intro music.
Hello, can you hear me?
Each episode, the Bear and the Beard ask a question that they want your input on, along with sharing comments, suggestions, and other things they have already collected. They love to hear from their fans, so let's get nerdy with it.
All right. For Talk Nerdy this week, we had some input on one of our YouTube videos, some comments, and we also had a viewer sent us this photo, and it's him dressed up as V from V for Vendetta. I cannot remember his name right off bat. I'm not looking at the stuff, but I did ask him if we could put this in here, and asked him who his favorite character was. He, of course, said V. So thank you for that. We also had on our Venom episode, Into the Venomverse, Let There Be Carnage, we had some comments. Heroic Gangster said on our Venom episode, and this is talking about the future of the MCU, he says, I really do wonder how Venom 3 is going to be is going to be, especially since it would kind of have to happen after Eddie Brock's shenanigans in the MCU. Myself, I'm kind of hooking on to the fact that, spoilers, the end credit scene shows off a scene where a lady is hiding that they were pregnant from a drama show. I'm getting Sleeper vibes, and I hope it would make Venom 3 have a chance to play off the funny married vibes Eddie and Venom have. To me, I think Venom 3 would benefit with the premise of handling responsibility with Toxin, and Sleeper potentially reinforcing the notion that Eddie and Venom need to take into account how the existence of their symbiotic relationship being possible affects the world around them. It would help Venom 3 not feel like another symbiote hunt, and more so a symbiote rivalry, perhaps between Venom and Toxin, when it comes to how Sleeper, or whoever, would be raised. To me, I believe future Venom movies would really make use of the domesticated dynamic Eddie and Venom have now, but I hope it would be used more in another movie, because in Venom 2, most of the time, it feels like they were truly split up and not allowed to work together until the end. So...
Can we send them to therapy? Couples counseling.
Thank you, Heroic Gangster, for that input. Venom 3 will be very interesting, even if they don't do that storyline. But if they did the Sleeper storyline, I think that would be amazing. So, our nerdy question for this week is, which do you prefer to watch your MCU storyline in? Do you prefer chronological, or do you prefer release order? So let us know what you think about that in the comments and in the emails and the Talk Nerdy stuff, all the things. Beard, which do you prefer? Chronological? Like, if you were going to go watch it right now, would you start at chronological or release?
I have a double answer for this.
Oh, no.
Basically,
not allowed.
both.
We'll be here 8 hours.
Okay.
Okay, I think the first time you watch it through, you should do the way it released. But after you've seen it that way, I think chronological is best if you're rewatching.
Okay, that's a good answer. Orey, what do you think?
I have to say chronologically. I think the story needs to be ingested, with the characters. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Jay?
This most recent time I watched it, last year, I don't know if everybody knows this, but my mom broke her back, so we were on the couch for a very long time just watching stuff, and we binged watched the entirety of the MCU in release order. And the perspective that you get when you watch it that way, because if you watch it in chronological for the first time, references in Captain Marvel aren't going to make sense if you haven't seen the Avengers. Or, so I think for everybody's benefit, watching it the way they released it is the best way. Also, because they did it in that way to culminate in the big team-up movies at the end of every phase. And so that's really the best way to watch it, in my opinion. I've yet to watch it in chronological order, but I should.
You should.
And I will. But, yeah, I think release.
Okay. Josh, what do you think?
So I agree with Beard yet again, and I believe we touched on this. I don't know if we were recording or not, but I remember
the beard power is back. Josh is beard again.
I was telling you guys how my girlfriend and I are actually doing this right now. We're watching through all the Marvel movies. We just got through Ragnarok last night, which what a treat that was to watch that again for the 18th time. Yeah, and
gotta love a movie that's 80% ad-libbed.
Yes,
anything like Waititi ever does is a favorite movie of mine.
Yeah.
So,
Free guy.
I think 100%. You have to the first time sit down and watch it in release order. I think that is the wisest thing to do because, again, like I mentioned, we started in chronological with Captain America. And I was like, wait a second. This is going to confuse her because she's seen a few of them, but they've been all over the place. So we need to start with at the very beginning with the release and go through. And also, Marvel did a really good job of learning from their mistakes and using later movies to fix some of the things the fans didn't like about previous movies. See the original Mandarin, see the new Shang-Chi.
Right. Yeah,
they did fix some of those things. So I think it's good to kind of watch them develop and watch them grow as they get better at what they do. It is fun to watch it chronologically, but to be honest with you, I was looking at the two lists and comparing them. It's not drastically different. There are definitely differences, but it's not like you're moving everything all over the place. It's generally fairly close.
Yeah, I agree. It's not drastic. I for a long time was like chronological because that's the way they they put them out in a certain order, but that's because they're but they also fill in gaps. But see, I'm also one of those people that doesn't like it when they do that. See Captain Marvel, for instance, the fact that they didn't mention her at all, and then it was like, oh, by the way, she's in the end credit scene of Infinity War, and then she gets her own movie. It's like, wait a minute, huh?
And she's the strongest character you've met so far. So
right.
Who's that?
So
just never heard of her.
But they want you to watch her movie before you watch Endgame because that's how it released. So, but I feel like with that movie, if you put it, even if you put it where it goes chronologically, it still doesn't make any sense because it's like the Guardians of the Galaxy are in space. Why has the Nova Corps never heard of Captain Marvel?
Yeah.
Why, there's all these questions that it poses. So yeah, first time through, definitely release order. And if you're going to watch it after that, chronological, maybe just because that's the way they want you to watch it.
Yep.
But you don't have to. So really it just comes down. But don't be one of those weird people that starts at the end and goes back to the beginning. I think that would be a little weird. Like reverse order would be strange.
That sounds horrifying.
It does. I think that's a form of torture. Actually, I think that's
just a little.
That is going to take us out of our Talk Nerdy segment. I'll play that outro music now.
Be sure to send in your response to this week's Talk Nerdy topic, and any other nerdy stuff like episode topic suggestions, fan theories, or cosplay photos so we can put it in future episodes. If you think it's nerdy, we want you to share it. The Talk Nerdy links like the email and website are in the episode description as always. And don't forget you can also call or text the Nerd Line. That number is in the description as well. That's all for now. Let's get back to the show.
Right. Well, that is going to do it. I think we've talked the topic to death.
Nothing escaped us.
First time in Bear and Beard history that we had to do a two-parter anyway. If you got through this 3.5 hours worth of material, we applaud you. Greg, I know you're still listening.
And we thank you. We thank you so much for putting up with...
Real quick, before we go, I do want our guest panelists to plug their stuff. Ladies first, Orey. What do you got going on over at Geeky Vengeance?
Geeky Vengeance is about to take over Fan Expo in New Orleans. We are setting up a whole living room area. I will be running trivia, scavenger hunt, panels, moderating. I'll be doing all kinds of stuff, and I'm inviting the Bear and the Beard podcast to come hang out with us. As many people as I can fit into my booth. Y'all are welcome. Come say hi. We're going to be having prizes and giveaways. We're going to be talking nerdy stuff all weekend, and you get to meet me. Apparently, that's a big thing that's happening. Hi. And
come have a philosophical discussion with Hank McCoy because that's going to be one of my cosplays.
I'll be
It's
in
gonna be
my
sitting
new
in the living room.
that I'm working on.
Oh,
so,
nice.
yeah, I'm going to have all of my lovely, wonderful people with me, and it's going to be a great experience. January 7th through the 9th in New Orleans at the Ernest M. Memorial Center. Get your tickets now. We'll make sure that the site is accessible.
It'll be linked in the description right here.
And come see us. Come see Anthony Mackie. Come meet Mary
Mackie,
Poppins.
Jay and Silent Bob, and the cast of Clerks. Steve Amell has been announced.
And they
that's
are
just what
still
they've announced
rolling
so
out
far.
and announcing stuff as the time of this recording.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's going to be a great time.
I thought the Kevin Smith announcement was great. The Jay and Silent Bob were going to be there, and then like the next day they're like, "Oh yeah, and the cast of Clerks."
But yeah, come see us. We love you, and come find Geeky Vengeance. Come find the voice of Geeky Vengeance. Anywhere Geeky Vengeance is sold.
Links in the description for the Facebook group and for the contact email as well. And you can find the Voice of Geeky Vengeance podcast on the YouTubes. Where if you're watching this, pause it, go follow, subscribe, all the good things, click the bell and all that stuff. So definitely thank Orey for being a part of this episode and the show overall. and look forward to seeing you at Fan Expo there, Orey. Jay, tell us about Fandom for All and where we can find that.
All right, so Fandom for All is a cross-platform nerd news and just conversation outlet that primarily focuses on amplifying the voices of nerds that aren't really as present as we would like them to be in our community, whether that's women, people of color, LGBTQ. I wanted to, for example, I'm really looking forward to collaborating with Orey on a few things. The next thing that I will be doing in the foreseeable future is talking about one of my favorite franchises of all time. The Reitman's Ghostbusters is my next video that I'll be breaking down.
Yes,
and
I'm so
talking
excited
about Afterlife, which has just been the most perfect movie of the year for me. So very excited about talking about that. And then I'm hopefully looking forward to joining the guys at conventions in the future. And so we'll see what happens there, and more to come from everybody.
As an honorary member of the Geeks of the Round Table, you are welcome to join us at any con that we are at. I'll get you a list. So you can find all the links to Fandom for All and stuff like that for Jay in the episode description as well. And last but certainly not least, hopefully we haven't hopefully we haven't scared him off with part 2 either. We have Josh. Tell us where we can find Knights of the Nerds Table.
Well, first of all, I just want to reiterate and say thank you very, very much for having me on. It was an absolute pleasure to be on both times, and I'll talk as long as you want about nerd stuff. And speaking of that, we do that over at Knights of the Nerds Table. It is a YouTube channel, Knights of the Nerds Table. That's pretty much all we're on right now. We do have a Twitter that sort of gets used, and we're working on potential Facebook and website coming in 2022. Maybe we'll dabble in Instagram and all that other fun stuff. But for sure, check us out on YouTube. We mostly have done longer form videos, sort of like this, discussion forums. We've done a lot of reviews. Probably one of the biggest projects we did was we did a full chapter by chapter breakdown of the Snyder Cut.
Awesome.
That was probably my favorite series of y'all.
So if you have a spare 6 hours or so, go ahead and go through that. You can
about the length of the movie,
right? Yeah. You could definitely watch it. Just listen to it. You don't have to actually.
You can use it as a commentary.
Yes. So I'm actually not in those videos at all, but I do the editing for our channel and sometimes hop in as a host. Myself, Josh, and my or the guy who runs the whole show, EJ, and then other partner of ours, Dieter. We've stuck strictly to Marvel and DC, with the exception of doing Image Comics Invincible. We did a review on that that's recently, but we would like to branch out to other nerdy things in the future. But we've kind of stuck with the Marvel and DC for now, and just seeing where that gets us, and hopefully we can grow and keep having some fun and keep meeting people like you guys and hanging out.
Definitely. Well,
you belong to us now.
Anytime you need a second or third or fourth or fifth nerdy opinion, you let us know. We'll
help
many. Out any way we can.
I have many. Yes.
And we'll be happy to help. Happy to have this collaboration, friendship blossoming from a random
I'm a PR manager, so
Orey's a PR manager. We actually have a panel that we were talking about doing at Fan Expo about how to start a community, and I feel like we've done that by having the Knights of the Nerds Table represented here, Fandom for All, Voice of Geeky Vengeance. We've also had the Umbrella Holics and a bunch of other different stuff. So the Unwell Nerd Nation and a few others. So links to Knights of the Nerds Table YouTube page, their contact, and Josh's video that started this whole thing, the watch this before you watch the Eternals, all in the episode description. We look forward to having you back on other episodes, Josh. Overall rating is where we're at now before we go. Beard, how many beards do you give the movie Eternals?
11 out of 10 beards.
11 out of 10 beards. All right. Orey, how many mics does the Voice of Geeky Vengeance give?
I'm only going to give it 7, but there are certain characters that just need more mics. I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay. Jay, how many Nerdsquatch footprints do you give out of 10?
I'm going to go with Orey, and I'm going to say 7 as well.
All right.
One brain cell, you and I.
Josh, how many swords does this Knight of the Nerd Table give it?
I am going to the official Knights of the Nerds Table stance is we're going to call it 6 swords. And this is me taking into the account discussions I had with my co-hosts and other people. Even though they're not able to be here, I know they weren't huge on this movie, so I'll let them bring my score down just a little bit.
Okay.
We'll call it a 6.
The only reason
That's very honorable.
The only reason my score is as high as it is because my biggest complaint about the movie was actually solved through our conversation. Now, granted, some of the characters didn't have great character development, but I thought there was no character development. And through the conversations we've had just during the character breakdowns, I realized I was really wrong about that. Not with every character, but I definitely think for what this movie served as a purpose, I believe it has high praise from me. Is it endgame level? No, but for what it's supposed to be, it was perfect.
Yeah. Taking all of that into consideration, I'm going to give mine is Bear Paws. I'm actually gonna give it 8 out of 10 Bear Paws because the only reason I'm knocking 2 off, one, I know that the director was trying to do something, and it makes sense when you ask her about it in interviews, but that sex scene was not necessary. I felt like I connected more with them as a couple from them kissing and touching and spending time together than I did from that one random scene.
And then they showed
I don't know why. Maybe it traumatized me so bad that I just don't remember it. It's apparently a long scene, but for the love of God,
it wasn't really that long. It wasn't. Really
I cannot remember it. I must have been.
They were naked doing it.
Why?
Like,
I watched. I sat in the theater. I did not leave the theater.
Did you yawn?
I do not
like a really long yawn.
Like a really long bleep.
I didn't get up to take a leak or get more popcorn.
Rub your
I
eyes?
do not remember this scene.
Yeah, no, it wasn't very long, but it was in there, and I'll take 1 point off for that. The other point I take off is for everything that I talked about in part 1 and reiterated here. The timing just felt like it was just a little off, and for that, it gets 8 out of 10 bear claws. That is going to wrap it up. Overall rating, we liked it. So, and we're very proud of it as an MCU film. Can't wait for the sequel. Can't wait to see the Eternals to return in the MCU and the Black Knight as well. And in whatever form that takes. But I think we've talked to y'all enough. So I think we're going to get out of here. Be on the lookout for our next episode coming out. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be here in 2 weeks.
Hopefully, What If. I love to talk What If, but we'll talk about that.
We do. We'll figure it out. We have a lot on the back burner that we've put back there because of this taking up 2 episodes. So, but in the meantime, I've been the Bear.
I've been the Beard.
That's been Orey, the Babe, the voice of Geeky Vengeance. That's been Nerdsquatch Jay from Fandom for All, and that has been our new friend Josh, the Honorable Knight of the Nerds Table. And we want to remind you, as always, to stay awesome,
stay bearded,
and much love, guys. We will see y'all next episode. Until then, we are
out of here.
Boom, cut the check.
All right.
Another episode done. We hope you enjoyed it. New episodes are released every other Friday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. Check back then or subscribe so that your device downloads it automatically. Audio episodes are now available pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts, so it's really easy to share us with all of your nerdy friends. For YouTube viewers, subscribe and click that little bell so you're notified about new episodes. And Apple users, please don't forget to rate and review on the app. Rating and reviewing helps more nerds find us. Lastly, a huge thanks to the rest of the Bearded Bear team. Head researcher and graphic designer Mama Bear, Master of Marketing Han Brolo, and all of the geeks of the round table and friends of the cast. Thank you all so much. Talk at you next time, nerds. Until then, stay awesome, stay bearded, and much love.